friends. Welcome to the Overcomers, a movement and a group of people who have overcome, and they've got a story. That's what the Overcomers is all about. You sharing your story. Why? Because there is power in your story, and people need you. They need your voice. They need your story of hope, faith, and inspiration that where they're at right now is not the end. They need to know if you can overcome, so can they. Today, I'm excited to share with you another story of one such overcomer. So let's go check out who it is.
So I'm honored to be here today with my friend, Mark Holden. Mark, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thank you so much for the privilege and opportunity to be here.
So excited to have you. So for all of you who are tuning in that don't know my amazing friend, Mark, I just want to share a few things about him and about his story before we get started, because you might not know him like I do. Well, Mark is the father of 7 and the grandfather of 21. And what's so cute about that is that they actually made it to 21 grandkids in 2021. How fun is that?
And counting, by the way.
And counting. I love how proud of that you are. Mark is a former pastor who faced and has been through a lot of rejection. Rejection when he started a camp ministry, and he was also shunned by another church. But through all that rejection, Mark has found so many lessons and so much growth. He gained the ability to appreciate and honor all kinds of people because of what he had been through. Now, Mark is a successful business owner and contractor at Holden Home Services. He's also a real estate investor. He's paid off over $70,000 worth of debt. And he's also an elite personal development coach, now helping equip parents to build their children to be world changers. But what I'm blown away most by with you, Mark, is your heart for others. So many times when people go through hard things, they shut down and they don't want to be a part of things anymore. They don't want to put themselves out there to get hurt again. But you are so resilient. You are so resilient despite so much rejection. You are so caring, compassionate, and are one of the most giving and accepting men I have ever met in my life. You truly listen to people, and when you do, they know that you really care, which shows me just how big, deep, and authentic your heart really is. You exemplify the heart of the Father so well. So I'm so honored to have you with us today, for you to be able to share your story and share how you went from all this rejection to who you are now and being able to do that. Take us on that journey, my friend.
I would be delighted to, and I am humbled so much by your introduction and by your kind words for me. It literally starts me off very emotional, even just to get started. But thank you, Jen, for what you just offered to me. That was so fulfilling just to have you share those things. Thank you. I received that. I guess I would summarize the rejection seasons of my life as some of the most significant growth periods that I've ever experienced. None of us likes hardship or challenges. And I won't go into the details of those events or what surrounded them, what caused them. What I do want to focus on is what resulted from them. The camp rejection, that season of my life revealed so much about me and what I was walking in what I would call religious bigotry. The camp experience and what it taught me, what resulted from that was the recognition that the very people who are now rejecting me were the people that I walked with, and revealed the religious bigotry in which I had been trained and equipped. And unless I had been experienced the same rejection that I was offering others, I would never have known what I was walking in. And it was such a season of opening my eyes to so much pain, so much hurt, so much rejection, and yet such good fruit that came from it, because the result was that it opened up an entire world of relationships that I had been closing myself off to. People that I benefited from and gained from, that I would not even have ever had a desire or interest. I would have shunned them. And now the world had opened up to me instead. And that, I guess, has been for me the net result of most of the rejections that I've ever faced. I've just had such challenging seasons that resulted in such good fruit. Now, that in no way means that you or I or anyone else should jump into challenges on purpose. They find a way into our lives by the Father's hand. I'm convinced He does those things. He allows those things because He loves us, because He wants to mature us, because He wants to reveal things in us that need to be chiseled away. And if we're open to that, if we're surrendering to that, if we're humble enough to hear it and to receive it, He just does a marvelous work in us that allows us to be able to benefit from those hard things, and to benefit in a way that we would not ever be able to grow if we didn't walk through them. So His purposes are always kind, they're always good, they're always beneficial, and they yield good fruit if we'll humble ourselves to receive it. The net result of that, I guess, for me, Jen, you talked about my father's heart, but I'll try to express it. Comes from such a deep passion in me to be known as the Father is known, to make Him known for who He is, and therefore to be loving and kind and accepting, to be willing to listen and to care, because He does. And His heart, His arms are so open to us. And so often we make our judgments without any knowledge. We determine ahead of time what we think about someone. It's interesting right now as I'm sitting here, there's an Olympian, the Olympics are going on right now. And I know by the time this is aired, that'll be history. But as I'm sitting here right now, that's going on, and there's a young lady who withdrew from the Olympics while she's there. And I've heard so many conclusions about what was right with that, what was wrong with that, what she should have done, what she shouldn't have done, or now she's a hero, or there's just so many things out there. And the reality is, no one that's offering their opinions has any clue what's going on in behind the scenes. We just don't know. And so we need to just be quiet sometimes and just allow people to be people, and allow them to speak for themselves, allow them to be on the journey that they're on, and support them, encourage them, bless them. And there's times when folks are absolutely on the wrong path. They're engaged in the wrong stuff. They're making bad decisions for themselves. The last thing they need is my judgment, my condemnation. Certainly, I don't support those bad decisions. I don't support bad life choices. I don't like it when people hurt themselves. Goodness, the Father doesn't like it when people hurt themselves. And yet, at the same time, we have the opportunity to express our loving care for someone going in the midst of pain. So often, painful decisions are made because of pain. And is it my place to add pain to that pain? I think rather we'd be better off trying to retrieve some folks and to love them and care for them. And so that, I really believe, is the Father's heart, and been part of my experience as a dad of 7. There's, again, people make their judgments, they have their misperceptions, they look on us as a family, say, boy, I wish I had all that the Holden family has. You have no idea what the Holden family has. The kind of struggles. We're just another family. And we have wrestling matches and struggles, relationship issues, just like everybody else. Sorry, I'm not paying attention to my phone. I'm dropping myself. But the reality is, part of my process as a dad, and now an adoptive dad, I have adopted kids around the world, young folks who have been, through various circumstances, found themselves without fatherly kind of covering or care or affirmation, blessing in their lives. And to be able to step into that role and say, the Father still remembers you. He still loves you. He still embraces you. Jen, to be able to say to you, the Father finds great delight in you. And to be, to see how that just raises someone out of the ditch, or if they're not in the ditch, it still raises them above where they are and encourages them to go on. Because the reality is, there are times when life is very discouraging for all of us. And we need the encouragement that we can offer. One of the greatest gifts that we possess is the power to encourage somebody. And you know what? It doesn't cost me anything to offer words of encouragement to somebody. What a great investment I can make. And a life whose direction has changed even slightly, or just encouraged, lift it up for the moment today, to be able to offer encouragement to somebody. And for me, that's one of the greatest thrills of my life. And I guess it finds itself, because of the Father's heart, it finds itself manifest in my desire for equipping other young men to grow in their role as a man, to be a husbandly encourager, to be a fatherly encourager, to embrace their role as a servant leader within the context of their home. There's so many warring agents coming against the family today, trying to distort the perspective of what a godly man is, or to tear down the idea of what a godly woman should be. And we just need to bolster that. We need to zero in on what does it actually look like, and try to put tools in the toolbox. I mean, I'm convinced there's a lot of guys out there that just would love to be a good dad and have no tools in their toolbox. They don't even know where to begin. Their day starts with frustration and it ends with discouragement, because they don't know how to get there from here. And so to be able to hand meaningful tools to folks, and to be able to allow them to walk in those roles, to be able to build a generation that is stable and mature and knows who they are, and therefore has something to offer to the world, there's no greater thrill in my life than to see that happen. So that's a little bit about what I've been through and kind of where it's gotten me.
So amazing, friend. So amazing, the journey that you have taken, going from all of that, and then just this enormous heart that you have for others. Like, even just listening to you now, like, you can hear the passion that is so strong and so big for other people, despite all of that. I mean, you were getting me choked up and teary-eyed with, that heart that you have to be that fatherly figure who for people who don't have that. And here I wasn't in a defeated place, but you still were able to encourage my spirit because of how genuine and authentic your words and your heart was in that moment. You still got me teary-eyed. So I know that you're making a huge impact and helping a lot of people, including myself. I had a question when you were sharing kind of where you had come from. And I was wondering, was there a specific moment where something flipped, where when you were going through all of this, where you felt like he just told you something or opened your eyes to something that hit you in a new way, where you were able to flip and just get in this zone of seeing other people versus staying in this zone of hurt from everything you were experiencing?
Let me share the camp experience just briefly with you again. It was a camp ministry that we started as a family. I had surrounded myself with board members as a 501c3, so it was a not-for-profit that we started. And I knew that our season there was coming to a close. I really believed that I should be back in pastoral ministry again. I was burning myself out, burning my family out with the work that there was there. And I went there because I desired to speak, to be on a platform. And I found myself never doing that. It was always maintaining, always building a facility, always inviting other folks to speak while I was out tending to RV sites and cabins and, maintaining stuff. And it was just time for us to be done there. And so, because we were board governed, it was really up to the board. What are you going to do with this place next? Who are you going to bring in here for leadership? And I went into a meeting, my final meeting with that group of leaders, and made a very strong and passionate appeal concerning a direction I believe that they should go. I walked out from that meeting. They stayed and were conferring in the room. I walked out from the building into a beautiful, glorious day, and almost audible, just felt the strong presence of my Father say, well, I mean, it was probably the strongest appeal that I had ever made to a group of people, for his work to continue, the work that we had started, go this direction, because it's why we did this. And I walked out into that sunshine, and it was the same presence, the same voice that I'm confident Jesus heard that said, well done, my son. That was well done. I'm so pleased with you. An hour later, that group of people walked out of the building and said, Mark, we're not going your direction. We're doing something else. And which essentially meant my life work there, all that I had poured into that place, was washed away. We're not going to do what you designed here. We've got different things in mind. That it was crushing. My Father prepared me for the disappointment, rejection in advance by the affirmation of his voice ahead of time. And so for me, the turning point came before the rejection did, because my identity was already established. My affirmation had already been given to me. The encouragement of his voice had already spoken into my spirit. And so the crushing blow was still, it was extremely hard to swallow. We moved away from that place, and essentially all of our ties to it were severed, because it was now something different. It wasn't even ours anymore. It was walking away from, it's almost like walking away from your own baby. And yet the ability to walk toward what he had for us. And I think there's the critical ingredient in rejection or discouragement, disappointment. So often we find ourselves continuing to look backwards. But the whole reason that I was in that meeting that day is because I was walking forward. There was something else he was calling us to, something else he wanted us to do. And he wanted to use the experiences that he had just taken me through to further empower me with the things that we were going to. And what we went to, by the way, was a church planting situation that found us in a position where we were functioning non-denominationally, and ended up in a fellowship that hosted and created a family out of a very diverse group of people within the same church family. The denominational name was taken off the door. And we had folks who came from Pentecostal, Charismatic, Baptist, Roman Catholic, diverse background, that all ended up worshiping together every Sunday. That would never have happened in my previous paradigm. But I had been taught, I've been shown to break down some of those barriers and learn how to embrace each other, learn how to love each other, even though our roots may be under different umbrellas, and that the kingdom is bigger than those paradigms. The kingdom is bigger than what I was trained in. And that lesson needs to continuously be taught, because later rejections were involved with some of the same religiosity, the same closed mindedness. And the Father continues to affirm who he is and wants to affirm who he is through us.
Mm.
And so to come back to your question again, I think the answer to it is stop looking backwards.
Mm.
There's something that was invested in you for the purpose of moving forward with it.
Yes.
To be able to invest it in others, to be able to take it somewhere. Look at the example of Joseph in the scriptures. Whoever experienced the kind of rejection that he did, where he had, 10 of his brothers who loved him so much that they sold him for 20 pieces of silver and wanted him gone. That's pretty huge rejection. And yet he continued to be forward looking.
Mm.
And invested himself no matter what his circumstances were, whether he's in Potiphar's prison, working as a slave in the slave yard, wherever he found himself. It was for the purpose of glorifying and to continue to invest what he knew to be true within himself. He'd been given some dreams that he still held on to. He believed what the Father had made known to him, and he moved forward with it to the place where he became Potiphar's right hand, or Pharaoh's right hand man, and essentially rescued the entire world, but most specifically his own family,
Mm-hmm.
because he refused to continue to look backwards, even in his treatment of his own brothers when they came and bowed down before him. He could have lorded that over them. He could have been in embitterment. He could have imprisoned them. He could have shunned them. He could have sent them away. Instead, he said, "You don't understand, fellas. You didn't send me here. Yahweh sent me here. He sent me here to preserve our family." Forward looking, stop looking backwards. There's no life backwards. Life is ahead of us.
So good, friend. I love what you shared when you were going to this meeting, and right afterwards when you were walking out in that parking lot, and you heard his voice telling you, "Well done." And that's what your spirit clung to in the midst of what was about to happen, which whenever you face rejection, whenever you have to go through something horrible like that, it doesn't mean that it's not painful. It doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt. But when you're able to make the decision, what voice am I going to listen to in the midst of that?
Yes.
You're able to hold on to the truth, and it's able to bring you forward. But it doesn't mean that it still doesn't hurt. So I think what you shared was so beautiful from that aspect of, hey, we're all going to go through crap. We're all going to go through pain. But what are we going to listen to in the midst of that? And I love that you shared that you were able to hear him. You were able to hear the voice of your Father and how he felt about you, because to me, that shows the most perfect and beautiful example of why you're now able to do that for other people, because you have seen his heart. You know what it feels like. You know what it sounds like. And now you're doing that for other people. And I love that you shared the example of Joseph. I'm sure this has already hit you, but I hope you realize how exciting your future is, because I know you are going to be used to set a lot of people free in the same way that he has been.
I received that. Thank you, Jen. And we as a family are in transition toward that right now. There's none of us that want to be in contracting. Our heart is to be investing ourselves in other people, and trying to formulate exactly what does that look like. It's a tightrope walk as a believer sometimes, to know how to push a door open and how to wait on the Lord to open doors, and to be able to do it according to his purposes and his time, and waiting for his provision in it. There's just so many ingredients, but I am confident our season has arrived, and the desire of the Father is to be able to be healing people and to be using us to do it. So that's what we're pursuing at this point. The coaching is an aspect of that. It's another tool in our toolbox to be able to equip people, help walk alongside of them, and hope to be using that in a powerful way as well.
So another question for you in regards to that, because I know there's a lot of people listening right now who probably have themselves faced rejection. Maybe they're going through that painful experience right now. What would you say to that person? What one piece of advice would you tell that person that has just gone through that or is going through it right now?
It's so important for you, and I'll speak directly to whoever that is, whoever you are sitting there right now, to understand that your rejection does not define you. Your identity is not wrapped up in the circumstances that you find yourself. Your value is not determined. Your worth is not determined by the experiences you're going through. The experiences that you're going through are tools that are being used to continue to build you because you are so valuable. Your identity is in your Father and his relationship to you. He has entrusted this experience to you for the very purpose of allowing you to see him who your identity is in line with. You may not have had that sunshine affirmation voice speak to you. You may just be walking in the dark, trying to figure out what way is up. But you're not in that place alone. It's so important to recognize he's not abandoned you. He's using these circumstances and what is very temporary in your life to be able to mold you, shape you, strip away some of the stuff that is not beneficial to you, perhaps to carve out new and stronger, more fulfilling relationships for you, to stretch your mind beyond what you could have possibly seen before. But you're not alone, and you're not identified. Your value is not equated with the rejection you've experienced. Be patient. Keep listening. Keep walking forward. Keep looking forward. Look for, sometimes, Jen, sometimes we are looked down upon if we say, why, God? I think we're supposed to ask him why. In faith, to be able to honestly say, there has to be a purpose, something that I'm not understanding, something that I'm not seeing. What is your intention in this? What's your desire in this? It's not the fist shaking why. Why would you do this to me? It's not the challenging, ego driven why. No, it's the heart searching, the humble pleading. I know you are good. So what is your good intention by what you're taking me through? I'm convinced that one of the most prevalent, one of the first tools that the enemy uses in our heart is to challenge the goodness of God. It started in the garden. What was the very first challenge that man and woman faced in relationship to their walk with their God? If God were good, he wouldn't be keeping you from that tree. If God were good, you would already know the difference between good and evil. He challenged the very goodness of God. So what's one of the first things that pops into our head when something tragic or traumatic happens to us? If God were good, children wouldn't have cancer. If God were good, my parents wouldn't have died in that accident. If God were good, my boyfriend wouldn't have walked away from me. And the enemy challenges our view of our Father and challenges his very goodness.
Mm.
And his goodness is not what's at question. Sometimes his purposes are, but that's why he's God and we're not, because his purposes are bigger than we can understand. And so in humble submission to him and his sovereign plan, his overarching view of what he's trying to do, we can say, okay, I don't understand this. Why would this be happening? How would you want to use this to strengthen me, to equip me, to chisel stuff away from me? What is there that I need to be doing that I haven't been doing? Or what do I need to stop doing that I have been doing? Or what attitude changes do I need to make? How have I been treating people that needs to be different? How have I been viewing things that is not in keeping with the Father's heart? Teach me, Father. Show me what you want me to learn here. Because I know you are good and you have good purposes for whatever I'm going through right now. And allow my heart to settle, to rest in the goodness of my Father, because he is good.
So good, friend. So good. And I know you have a heart for more than just that person who's in that place. I know you're also a man of action and you take action for others. You don't just sit there and wait. And I know that there is an organization that you really care about. I just want to give you the platform, the space to share about this organization that you partner with.
I will talk about 3 organizations. How's that?
Perfect.
One of those organizations that I would like to highlight with that is Warrior Dad, which is my own organization, which my family and I will be launching under that banner, title of the book that I've written. But it'll become more than just a book. It's an organization committed to equipping men and women to walk in their biblical roles, to be able to equip them to be godly husbands and wives and powerful moms and dads. And part of the Warrior Dad picture is Destiny Global, where my coaching certification comes from. And I love the fact that I get to partner with them, just a powerful organization that is changing people's lives and something that folks really need to become part of. There's such a great teaching platform. There's such a great community life that's connected there. It allows relationships to be built that are wholesome and moving forward and life-giving. And all of that for a third organization, which is King's Ransom Foundation, which is a not-for-profit organization that provides an avenue for giving to the poor, for rescuing those that are human trafficked, for being able to care for the needy poor, providing water for and food for needy folks around the world. And the opportunity to partner with them and contribute toward what they are doing as world changers and changing the picture of what's going on globally. It's just it's a power-packed combination that I find myself in such a wonderful place of being able to be connected with all 3 of those things. And really the door is open for anyone to be connected to those opportunities. And so I guess I do want to specifically really plug in King's Ransom Foundation. Every single dime, every single penny that people give to King's Ransom goes specifically and directly to the causes that they stand for. And there's no administrative fees that come off the top. I'm not supporting some guy's multi-million-dollar house who calls his benefit off the top. That doesn't happen in King's Ransom. My money, my giving, my effort goes specifically to help people who are hurting. And it's a great opportunity to be connected there.
So good. So just a reminder, if you want to pick up Mark's book, you can actually find it on our website on the resources page. And if you have a heart to help equip your kids to be world changers, make sure you reach out to Mark. You can find him on our website, or you can click below. We'll have a link there as well. But Mark, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to share your journey, to share your heart, to share everything that the Father has done in your journey and is continuing to do and can do for whoever is listening on this call today. You love your family so much. You are a good husband. You are an amazing father, grandfather, and you are a good son. And I know I speak for not only the Father, but so many people that they just love you and they are proud of you and they are excited for your future and what you are going to do because they all believe in you. And I, for one, believe in you, friend.
Thank you so much, Jen. It's such a strange thing to have you thank me for the opportunity to be here when you just simply opened the door for me to talk about the things that I love to talk about. So thank you.
It's been a delight, friend.
Wow, wasn't that powerful? Do you have an overcomer story? Do you know someone who needs to hear this message? Please share this video on your social platforms and tag us so we know who you are. Stay tuned as we share more overcomer stories in the weeks ahead. We're looking for you. We're looking for the overcomers. Join us. Let's come together as the overcomers. Start sharing your story. We have multiple ways you can start getting involved and repping the movement, repping your story of what he has done in your life. For example, we've got journals. You can start writing your story down. Start getting it out of your head and on paper. We've got bracelets. Start repping that we're a group that are coming together to inspire people. We've got t-shirts and sweatshirts to not only remind yourself that you're filled with gold, but everybody around you, that your story is powerful. And don't forget, you can pick up a copy of Finding His Voice on Amazon. An overcomer's journey from suicide to success. An overcomer's journey which launched this very movement. And last but not least, if you want to learn how to overcome, visit www.dannyjohnson.com. That's my coach, and that's where I learned how to overcome. Thank you so much for joining with us today. We believe in you, and we believe in the power of story.